Hi, I'm Kent. I've been working on trying to get holes into my ceramic pieces. In the last few videos, I've been exploring this form here. I've been turning it into a lamp, and I've been playing around with this rice grain effect. So the idea is you put holes in the ceramic form and then glaze over it, and that winds up with a translucent window. The question is, how do I get the holes without having the inside chip out? In the last video, I was playing around with moisture content, and I basically let all of the clay homogenize so it would be the same dryness all the way through. And I really thought that would fix the problem. However, I still wound up with some challenges. I'm starting to suspect it may be my clay body that's actually the problem, not actually the water content. However, a while ago, there was another idea that I want to try and explore in this video, and you clicked on the thumbnail, so you already know what that is. So if instead of trying to add the holes afterwards, can I actually mold them into the shape itself? So can I modify my plaster mold here in some way? So the idea I'm going to try out is to drill holes in the plaster mold. So then hopefully what will happen is I'll be able to insert the pin and then pour the plaster and then remove the pin and then pull out the form with the hole already in place. So the way slip casting works, it really needs the plaster because the plaster is basically acting as a sponge, pulling the water out of the liquid slip, and it lets it deposit. However, slip will set up in other places. I was just mixing up the slip in my bucket, and I have some slip that's kind of solidified on the walls, and this is probably due partially to the thixotropic nature of the slip. Likewise, for this mold here, I printed this funnel, and when I pour the slip in, I will wind up with a thin layer of clay that's deposited on the 3D printed walls. So if this is going to work, I think I'm going to have to figure out how to deal with that problem. I won't have a lot of slip on the pins, I don't think, but I'll have enough that it might be a problem in terms of making those holes. And since this is a test, and right now this is the only sphere mold I have, I'm going to go ahead and pull some old molds off the shelf and try it on those. So this here is a mold for one of my oldest forms. It's basically a small little cup. I made a whole bunch of planters out of these and some cups and candles and other things. And I have several of these, and they're starting to deteriorate, so the inside surface isn't great anymore. So what I want to do is take a drill bit and put a hole in here. Actually, I'm going to put several holes. And I found some nails here in my garage, and basically the drill bit matches the size. The drill bit's just slightly larger than the nail. So I should be able to put the holes in and then insert the nail as a pin. It will then be sticking on the inside. I can then fill this up with slip and slip cast the pot, and then try and remove the nail and see what is left. So something else crazy to try. Let's see how it works. So basically, I'm just going to go for it. So we'll put in several holes. And I'm worried about chipping the plaster on the inside, so I'm going to go nice and slow. All right, one hole. It chipped out a little bit, but not too bad. For my actual sphere form, I can actually drill from the inside to the out. So I think that'll be less of an issue. But for here, for my test, I want to try and get it as clean as possible. All right, and do another one. And a few more. All right, there we go. A bunch of holes on the inside. Let's clean up this plaster mess. Sponge out the dust so it doesn't get into the slip. All right, so I got 5 holes, so we'll use 5 nails. And they fit. They're a little bit loose, but not too bad. And I'll just stick them in there. There we go. It kind of looks like a porcupine. So now let's go ahead and fill this up with slip. So I'll put it under my slip bucket here and open up the spout. Go ahead and fill it up. All right, there we go. I'll go ahead and let this sit and form the pot, and we'll come back to it. I didn't have slip leak out on my bench. That's a good thing. It is time to dump this out, and I'm going to go ahead and pull the nails out right away and see what happens. See them sticking through there, so let's pull them out. Slip's still draining. All right, let me turn this over and let it drain. This has finished draining, And it looks like we do have some holes, but it's definitely not clean. Now let me go ahead and trim this up and pull it out. All right, there we go. So you probably can't see, but they're not all the way through. So I think there's a little bit of artifacts here on the surface, but I think that it could be cleaned up with a sponge. But yeah, they don't go quite all the way through. Yeah, there's definitely excess slip right here that built up where the nails were. All right, that worked okay, but isn't great. So let's go ahead and try it again. I think this time I'm gonna leave the nails in until the very end when I demold the pot. So again, take the nails and put them in. And fill it up with slip again. And I'll be back in a few. And just like before, I'm gonna go ahead and drain this, only this time I'm gonna leave the nails in and see what happens. There we go, sticking through again. All right, I'll flip this upside down and let it drain the rest of the way, and we'll come back when it's ready to pull out. And here we go, and you can see there's still slip on the nails. This is what I was talking about at the beginning. The slip will deposit on the plaster mostly. However, other things that are in there will definitely catch the slip a little bit. Let's go ahead and pull these out. Oh yeah, you can see the slip kind of depositing as it comes out. All right, and kind of like last time, the holes don't go all the way through, but I think that just occurred right now. Between the two, I think pulling the nails out right away works better. In doing so, there isn't time for the slip to build up on the nail itself, so when I pull it out, there isn't slip that gets deposited in the hole. Let me try this a few more times off camera and see if I can get better results. It's been a few days, and I made a few more. Here's the lineup. These have actually gone bone dry at this point. So from your perspective, I just went ahead and slip cast these two here. So this one here is okay. It's not chipped out like the ones I've been having with the sphere. It's actually raised a little bit, but so it's okay, but I'm not too sure if it's better than the chip out or not. And then pulling the nail after it had been sitting leaves these bumps here. And then there's these two here. So what I wound up doing for this one is I put the nail in just a little bit. So you can probably barely see it here, but the nail is basically just in as far as the little point is. And I went ahead and slip cast it, and like the first one I did, I went ahead and pulled it right away as soon as I dumped out the slip. And that resulted in this pot here. And these are looking pretty good. There's a couple where the holes are clean. There's not much of a mound here, so it's cleaner than the first one. Kind of side by side. So the first one I did, now the third. That worked pretty well, but I don't think the nail was in far enough, so the slip kind of covered up the hole a little bit. So I put it in a little bit more this time. So maybe something like this, where the straight part of the nail was just sticking through enough to pierce the slip, and then the pointy part was through the end, and that was this one here. And I'm actually very pleased with this result. There's no breakout, there's no excess slip hanging out here. So I think we have a winner. One problem is that these nails are actually too small. I want holes that are slightly bigger. These are just what I had laying around, and I found a drill bit to match. So I'm gonna have to go rummaging around and see if I can find something better to work as pins that are closer to the size of the holes that I want. And then I'll need to make the decision of, do I actually want to put holes in my sphere mold right now or not? Either way, this was interesting. It looks like you can actually slip cast these holes in place. It definitely requires a little bit of finesse in terms of making sure the slip doesn't build up where you don't want it to, or when you're removing the nail in this case, or a pin more generally, the slip doesn't get deposited in the wrong spot. I think in the future I'll try with something a little bit bigger, and maybe this will be the answer. We'll see. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Thanks.